Hey y'all, welcome back to the Southern Wife Life and welcome to part 3 of my testimony series. I'm trying to break them up into smaller videos so that you aren't watching just like an hour-long video because I honestly don't know. I'm kind of just letting God guide and talk about whatever I need to. I did switch locations. I mean, I'm at the same place, but somebody pulled in and it was kind of awkward, but here I can go hands-free and I feel like it's a little bit better. And the wind got really bad down there. So anyways, welcome back to part 3. If you haven't seen part 1 or part 2, be sure and go back and check that out. Part 2 left off, I kind of did like my marriage, relationship, how that all came together, and just, sorry, I thought I heard something, just kind of how God intertwined everything in His perfect timing, not ours, and how it is important to remember that it is in God's time and not yours. So, I guess, like I said, I thought the other video, I prefaced the other video with the whole, we're going to get into the nitty gritty and stuff that's not so pretty. Because, you know, if you are a Christian, it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows, and there are hard times that you're going to go through. And so I thought I was going to talk about that in the other video, but didn't get to it. So I'm going to preface it here. We're going to get into some stuff that is not so great and not glamorous. And so I just want to let you know before we get into that. But it is also where you will find God the most a lot of times, and where you will just feel Him and connect with Him, and it really has shaped what is my testimony. So let's see where I want to start because there's a lot. So my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2014. It was stage 4 when she was diagnosed, which you guys know normally that means that, it does mean it spread somewhere else, but normally that also means that you've caught it late. And so you just never really know, which I've always said, I work in the healthcare field, but don't ever let somebody give you a timestamp on your life because they don't know. If a doctor ever tries to tell you you have X amount of time to live, don't listen because they have no clue. God is the only person who can tell you when your time is done, and He's probably not going to let you know. So, but I just don't want you to think that a doctor is going to be able to tell you exactly. They may be able to give you an idea of what they think, but at the same time, no one truly knows when somebody's last day is. So stage 4, we're in 2014, early 2014. I'm talking things go bam, bam, bam. Like literally we find out on a Monday, I think, and by Thursday she had already had surgery. And so yeah, things were just super fast. Didn't really give you a whole lot of time to process stuff, which I think was kind of good in a way though, because it just let us dive in head first, like let's tackle this thing kind of thing. So anyways, that was in 2014. And then for like the next 2 years, she done great. She did radiation. I don't know that, I can't even remember when she started her chemo, but I know like for like 2 years, she was pretty much back to normal. She did fine. Everything was normal. Me and Cody got married in 2015. She was able to attend my wedding. She pretty much helped do everything with my wedding. It was just like everything was kind of back to normal. And then things kind of started going downhill. But before that, so here we've had a cancer diagnosis and we've, attacked that. God's been with us through it all. We've prayed. He healed. He healed a place that was on her hip bone that she goes back for a scan and it's scarred over. So awesome little things like that throughout her cancer journey that He just played a huge part in and slowed down things that shouldn't have slowed down. Things that the doctor said wouldn't happen, happened. So, it's a God thing. But in between all of that, so 2014 that happens, we get married in 2015. And then in 2017, and a lot of local people already know this, but if you're not local, then in 2017, my sister-in-law was murdered by her boyfriend. They had been together since she was like 16, off and on. It was a domestic violence relationship, always had been, was never going to get any better. Obviously, so many people had talked with her, prayed for her. We hoped and prayed that she would get out of that situation, and sadly, she did not, and it did not end in the greatest of ways. She had two little girls who are my nieces, and so they were, gosh, they were small at the time. I can't remember their ages at the time, but they were little, but they were like not so little that they didn't kind of know what was going on, which I felt like made it kind of worse because all these people are coming up to you and apologizing and all this stuff, and they were just so small that they didn't need to be dealing with all that. So that was tough. That took a lot of praying, not only for, the situation, but for my nieces, because their dad was in jail and he was not a great person, and we didn't want him to come out and try to get them. And so, like, the day after this happened, I headed to find out what I had to do to start the adoption process for my in-laws, because my in-laws had been helping raise them anyways. And so, like, literally I had papers filed the very next day. So yeah, just a lot, obviously with a murder, there comes a lot of court dates, a lot of unknowns, a lot of putting off, a lot of, just a lot of stress in general. And so, yeah, God definitely got our family through that. It was tough. It did not make it less tough. It was still a horrible situation to go through, but my mother-in-law was a wonderful example of how God can be there for you in that moment. So yeah, I think that was just a huge testimony in itself, that she was able to do all the things she did and handle things the way she did, was totally a God thing. So, like I said, not a great situation, but God saw us through, God got us through, and I honestly, truthfully, and I've talked to my mother-in-law about this, deep down in my heart believe that God knew that she wasn't going to leave that relationship. Do I think God, wanted her to be murdered? Absolutely not. But I think that, in a way, He saved her from it getting worse, because it was just going to be years and years and years of this happening over and over and over and over, because she wouldn't leave. So that's a hard and a fine line, and me and my husband don't always see eye to eye on that one. But I know that God is faithful, and I know that God has a plan for everything, and us as humans, we don't understand things, and we're not meant to understand everything. So I just continue to pray that God knows best, and God has a plan for what is best, and so we hold to that. But so that happened in 2017, and so that was really tough. Obviously something I had never been through, and something I hope we never experience again, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone's family. But so we made it through that. And so then my mom is still battling her cancer stuff. And so my testimony for that is, my mom had a testimony all her own, but sorry, I have the hiccups. I was working a full-time job when my mom got her diagnosis. I knew that I wanted to be there with my mom every step of the way, and God allowed me to work for a company that allowed me to have every Tuesday off whenever my mom had to start doing her chemo treatments and stuff. And so I was able to take every Tuesday off and go with her, be with her. We would spend the day together. We made the best of it. I'm like, chemo's not a fun thing, but we made it a fun thing. We would play Uno, and we would watch the Game Show Network, and we would play the games on the Game Show Network, and we would always just try to keep an upbeat, positive attitude, and just try to uplift the spirits of anybody else that was in there with us. My mom actually made, and I wish I'd have brought some with me, but I left them at the house. I'll show you guys, because I'm thinking about making some for the community, but she had wrote out these little cards that have Bible verses, and it was just, she put "Stand Strong" on the front of them, and they are verses that really stood out to her and helped her through her journey. And so she made extra little packets, and when she would see somebody, she would have me take them a little pack of the cards, and it was just such a blessing, and she was such a great woman. To be going through that and fighting your own battle and then trying to help and encourage others, I mean, that just goes to show you the type of person that she was. But so I'm losing my train of thought. So I was super thankful to get to work with a company that allowed me to be there with her every step of the way to make the best of it. I cherished that time, even though it was for chemo. Like, I'm so thankful that we had those moments together, because honestly, they weren't bad. She did not have bad reactions with chemo. She did not get sick. She would get a little weak sometimes. She did lose her hair, but like, she was upbeat. We would eat. Like, we went out to eat after her chemo treatments. I say it was the steroids, but either way, whatever it was, like, I was so thankful that she had an appetite, that she wasn't throwing up and all that. So just another testimony to how wonderful and great God is. So then in 2018, so my mom, like, she loves to travel, but my mom swore and said she would never go to Hawaii until they built a road, which we always laughed about. And Cody always said that he wasn't going to fly. But somehow in May of 2020, my mom and Cody ended up on a plane to Hawaii, and we went and we all had a wonderful time. It was fantastic. It was me, my mom, my dad, my mama, and my husband, two of which said they would never make it there, and they did. And I am so thankful for that trip. We had such a wonderful time together. Just a wonderful, great experience. I would say if you're ever going to go to Hawaii, go to Kauai, which is the westernmost part of the United States. It's the smallest island, and honestly, it just gives you like that hometown feel. So that's my suggestion if y'all ever want to go to Hawaii. But so we went to Hawaii together, and it was wonderful. And then, so we come back, I guess that was towards the end of May, maybe the 1st of June. I don't remember the dates exactly. And so I could tell, kind of throughout the summer that she was getting a little more tired, a little more weak. We were still going to her appointments and stuff, and nothing really seemed too out of the ordinary as far as like her appointments, but you know how that goes. And so in September, we went to Florida. We were going to go to Florida, and we went, and while we were down there, I could just tell that something was kind of off, and so she had an appointment when we got back, so I wasn't too worried about it, because I was like, well, we'll just get it checked out when we get back. So we get back from Florida, and I think this was like, I don't know, close to the end of September, and we go to the doctor, and she's like, not really sure. It's not, like, we didn't see any new spots or anything and all this, and Mom was having a lot of trouble, like, staying awake. Like, she just would get really tired, and she would go to sleep. And so she's like, really only time's gonna tell. She's like, it's either going to get better or it's not. And so, I mean, that's not like a great doctor's appointment, because it was kind of like there's the unknown. But if you think about it, it's always the unknown. Like, they may have suggestions and they may have a plan and they may have all these medicines or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's always in the hands of God. It's always His plan. It's always what He wants in His timing. So we left that doctor's appointment not really knowing what was going to happen next, but also just trusting that God knew, and that's what we hold to, because God, it's ultimately His decision and His timing. So we get home from that appointment, and she just slowly kind of just kept going downhill, and so it was actually probably not even a week she passed away. And obviously that right there, I was 27 years old. It was never in my mind that I would lose my mom at such a young age. That wasn't in my plan. Just goes to show you that our plans are not always, what's the saying, like, don't make your plans because God has His plan. I don't know the saying, but basically that's the saying I'm going to make up is, sorry, it's not, like, you can make plans, but they're not always going to happen. And so you just need to be prepared, because that's just a part of life. So she passed away actually today as I'm making this video. Makes 2 years since she passed, and my mom left such a huge legacy She touched so many people's lives. I mean, if you were there at the funeral home the night that she was there, there was like 400 plus people. And I mean, she just touched so many people, and she left a story of her own. She blessed so many people, and she left a legacy that will never be forgotten. And it's so crazy for me to think. I remember me and Cody were trying to buy the house we live in now. And I remember asking her, I was like, hey, what are you going to be doing the first or second week in October? And she said, I don't know, why? And I said, well, do you want to come sit on my new front porch with me? Because we're going to get to buy the house. And we were so excited. And then she passed away on a Friday, I guess it was the second weekend of October. And I was like, wow, like that right there just goes to show, and that's something that stuck with me this whole entire time. So, but through all that, I lost my mom, my best friend, the person I did everything with, and God was still faithful. God was still there. God picked me up. God carried me through. God helped me be there for my dad, for my mama, for everybody. And it just goes to show that even in your darkest days, in your hardest moments, God is always there. God is always faithful. God has a plan. There's no more pain, no more suffering, no more sorrow. And I have hope and joy knowing that I will see her again one day, and knowing that this is not the end, that this is just the beginning, and that we have eternity to spend together in heaven. And I'm so thankful for that peace, because without that, I'm sure her death would have been 9 million times harder. So definitely that probably tops the list of one of the hardest things I've ever been through, one of the most unexpected things I've ever went through. But at the end of the day, here we are. We're still standing. We are strong as ever. I never thought that I could make it without my mom. I don't want to make it without her, but you know what? I don't have a choice. So here I am 2 years later, and that's because God still has a plan for me. God still has a plan for my life. My mom finished her race. My mom did what she was sent here on this earth to do. She touched so many people along the way, and her time was done. God used her for her purpose, and now she was able to go to heaven and spend eternity with him. She won the good fight. So I just take joy in knowing that she isn't suffering anymore. I miss her terribly. Obviously, I wish she was here, but also I don't, because I know that she would be super annoyed with how the world is. So it's just one of those things. But so yeah, that happened the second week of October, and then 2 weeks later, my papa passed away. My dad's dad. He had been sick for a while, and we kind of knew that he wasn't doing well, but we honestly thought that he would have passed away before then, and then he started doing better. And so we just lost my mom. 2 weeks later now, my dad's lost his dad. I've lost my other papa. And, grief is hard. Everybody grieves differently, and I may do a whole other video on grief and grieving and all that. But to lose somebody you're that close to, and then 2 weeks later have it happen again, that's tough. Our minds are not mentally prepared to handle something like that, and without God, our minds could not handle something like that. I'll just go ahead and straight up tell you. I pray that that never happens to your family. I pray that you don't lose people super close together, but if you do, please call upon the Lord, because he will get you through, but it is tough. So that was 2 weeks later. Obviously, the holidays that year were very different and odd, emotional, just a lot going on. And then come February, my granny actually passed away, my dad's mom. So I had planned to take my dad to Arizona. We were going to the drag races, and I thought it would be good for us to just get away, just me and him, have some time together. And as we were on our way back, when we landed in Raleigh, we got a phone call from my uncle saying my granny was in the hospital. So we went straight from the airport straight to the hospital and stayed there. And then we actually brought her back to my dad's house and kept her there on hospice, and she passed away there. We were also able to keep my mom at home on hospice, so I'm super thankful for that. And my papa was at his house. So I am glad that they were all able to pass peacefully with family and at home. But yeah, so 3 deaths all within that short amount of time, and 3 close deaths, to your family. It's a lot and it's very difficult. But like I said, God is great. God has a plan, and He will help you through any and all situations. You just have to call on Him. So I think that's enough for this video, because this video is pretty deep. There's a lot, and yeah, so I hope that this will touch and bless somebody. I hope if you are dealing with any of the things I've talked about in this video, I pray for you. I pray that God will help you through. I know He will. As always, leave me any comments below if you want to talk about anything. I'm here. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Share it with somebody if you think it will bless them and help them through a difficult time. And we will catch you guys in the next video.